3 in the morning. You wake up with that thought, again, that voice that tells you that you're not enough, that everything will fall apart, that you're doomed to fail. And for the 1000th time, you try to push it away. I'm not going to think about it. I need to be positive. But the more you fight it, the more that thought comes back. Louder, more insistent, more real. And then you feel guilty for not being able to control your own mind, as if negative thoughts were evidence that you are weak, broken, insufficiently evolved. But what if I told you that this war you're waging against your own mind is exactly what's keeping you trapped? That every time you try to destroy a negative thought, you're actually feeding the monster you want to kill. Carl Jung spent decades studying the human mind and discovered something the toxic positivity industry will never tell you. Psychological suppression doesn't eliminate mental content, but it transforms it into autonomous forces that come to control your life in the shadows. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why your negative thoughts aren't your enemies, but messengers, and how the only real way to liberation isn't through war, but through something far more radical: mindful listening. This is no longer just a self-help video. This is in-depth psychology, and if you're tired of struggling, keep watching. Chapter 1. The Paradox of Suppression. Have you ever tried not to think about a pink elephant? Try it now. For 10 seconds, don't think about a pink elephant. What happened? You thought of a pink elephant, and the more you tried not to think about it, the more the image came to mind. This classic psychology experiment reveals a brutal truth. The act of suppressing a thought ensures that it returns with even greater force. In the 1980s, psychologist Daniel Wegner scientifically proved what Jung had known decades earlier. There is a rebound effect in thought suppression. When you actively try not to think about something, a part of your brain constantly monitors whether that thought has appeared, and this constant monitoring keeps the thought active in your consciousness. But Jung went deeper. He understood that this is not just a cognitive trick, it's a fundamental law of the human psyche. He observed a devastating pattern in his patients. The more they tried to be just positive, the more symptoms they developed. Unexplained anxiety, sudden depression, emotional outbursts seemingly out of nowhere. And they all said the same thing. But I was doing everything right. I was thinking positively. Jung explained it this way: the psyche functions through compensation. The psyche constantly seeks balance. When your consciousness rigidly identifies with only one pole, positivity, strength, control, the unconscious automatically creates the opposite to restore balance. It's like a seesaw. The more weight you put on one side, forced positive thinking, the more pressure builds up on the other side, repressed, dark content. And eventually, the seesaw tips violently. Think about your own life. How many times have you spent weeks repeating positive affirmations, maintaining a "I'm fine" facade, trying to be grateful and optimistic, and then, out of nowhere, collapsed into a weekend of crying, paralysis, or a disproportionate emotional outburst? This is not your fault. It's your psyche correcting an imbalance you created through repression. Jung used a powerful metaphor. Imagine your mind is a river. When you try to dam up certain emotions and thoughts, the water doesn't disappear. In fact, the water accumulates. And the higher the dam, the more violent the flood will be when the dam inevitably breaks. Your negative thoughts aren't random flaws. They're stagnant water trying to flow. And the more you build walls against those thoughts, the more destructive the eventual breach will be. So what is the alternative? If fighting doesn't work, what to do? Jung's response is radical and counterintuitive. Stop fighting and start listening. Chapter 2. The Symbolic Language of the Psyche. Imagine you're in a house. Suddenly a fire alarm starts ringing. Loud, insistent, irritating. Most people do one of two things: try to force the alarm off or put on headphones so they don't have to hear it. But nobody asks, why is the alarm ringing? Is there a real fire? Your negative thoughts are psychological alarms, and you've spent years trying to turn them off or suppress them without ever investigating the fire these thoughts are signaling. For Jung, recurring thoughts are not random noise, they are asymbolic language, the way unconscious parts of you try to communicate something that your conscious mind is ignoring. When the thought, "I am a failure," arises repeatedly, this thought is not making a factual statement about your identity. It is symbolizing something deeper. Perhaps it's the voice of an internalized critical father who never approved of you. Perhaps it's the cry of an inner child who never felt seen. Perhaps it's a sign that you're living someone else's life, not your own. Thought is the symptom. The symbolic message is what needs to be deciphered. Here is a real example that Jung documented. One of his patients, a successful businessman, was tormented by the recurring thought, "Everything I've built will crumble." He had tried for years to eliminate this thought with logic, with external success, with traditional cognitive therapy. Nothing worked, so Jung guided him through a different process, giving voice to thought, personifying it, engaging in dialogue with thought. And what emerged was revealing. That thought was not a prediction. It was emotional memory from his childhood, when the man's father lost everything in bankruptcy and the family fell apart. The terrified 7-year-old formed an unconscious belief. Success leads to ruin. Now, 40 years later, every time he achieved something significant, that terrified boy screamed through his thoughts, "It's going to fall apart." Not because it was objective truth, but because it was an unprocessed emotional truth. When man stopped fighting against thought and began to dialogue with the wounded child within him, something changed. The thought didn't disappear immediately, but it lost its paralyzing power, because for the first time, the thought was understood, not fought against. This is the fundamental change that Jung proposes. Stop asking, "How do I get rid of this thought?" Start by asking, "What is this thought trying to show me?" Each recurring negative thought is a door. You can spend your life locking that door with chains of forced positivity, or you can have the courage to open it and see what's on the other side. And what you find on the other side isn't a monster. It's a part of you, wounded, scared, desperate to be seen. Chapter 3. The Technique of Observation Without Fusion. Now that you understand that negative thoughts are messengers, not monsters, we need to talk about the fundamental skill for dealing with them. Separate who you are from what you think. Most people are completely merged with their thoughts. When the mind says, "I am inadequate," people don't observe that thought. They become it. The boundary between observer and thought disappears. Jung called this unconscious identification, and it is one of the central causes of psychological suffering. But there is another possibility. You can learn to observe your thoughts as phenomena that happen inside you, but that are not you. Think of it this way. Right now, you are breathing, but you are not the breath. You are the one who breathes. In the same way, thoughts occur within you, but you are not the thoughts. You are the consciousness that observes them. Practical exercise. The next time a negative thought arises, do this. Instead of thinking, "I am a failure," reframe it internally to, "I'm having the thought that I'm a failure." It seems like a small difference, but it's a psychological revolution. In the first sentence, you are the thought. There is no distance, no choice, no freedom. In the second sentence, you are observing thought as a transient event in your consciousness. Space is created, and where there is space, there is the possibility of choice. Jung used the metaphor of the sky and the clouds. You are not the passing cloud. You are the vast sky in which clouds, thoughts, appear and disappear. When you truly internalize this, something profound changes. Thoughts lose their power to possess you. They keep appearing, and that's natural, but now you're not at their mercy. You observe them with curiosity, like a scientist observing an interesting phenomenon. Look, my mind is creating a catastrophic scenario again. Interesting. What triggered it today? This distance is not coldness or detachment. It is conscious presence. It's about you finally taking on the role of observer of your own internal experience, instead of being swept away by every emotional and mental wave. Chapter 4. Active Dialogue with the Unconscious. Now you've learned how to create distance, but Jung taught us something even more powerful. You can engage directly with your negative thoughts. This is what he called active imagination, and it's one of the most transformative techniques in depth psychology. It works like this. Step 1. When a recurring negative thought appears, don't fight it. Invite it into a conversation. Step 2. Close your eyes and visualize that thought as a figure. It could be a person, an animal, a shadow, a presence, whatever comes naturally to your imagination. Step 3. Ask this figure, why are you here? What do you want me to know? Step 4. Write whatever response comes to mind, without censorship, without judgment. Let the image speak in its own voice. Does it seem strange? Perhaps. But thousands of people trained in Jungian analysis confirm it works. Practical example, imagine you have the recurring thought, nobody cares about me. Instead of fighting against it or passively accepting it, you use active imagination. You ask, why do you keep telling me that nobody cares about me? The figure responds, which may appear as a sad child, because you've always needed to prove you deserve love, and you're tired of it. I'm here to remind you that you're still looking for validation outside yourself. You ask, what do you need from me? The figure responds, may you stop looking for love where it never was. May you learn to care for yourself first. You see, thought isn't an attack, it's communication. It's a part of you desperately trying to be heard. When you finally listen, when you validate the pain behind the thought, something magical happens. Thought loses the need to shout. He was heard, he was understood. Now you can calm down. This doesn't mean the thought disappears forever, but it completely changes the relationship. Instead of a tyrant that torments you, it becomes an occasional advisor that reminds you of something important. We've reached the end of this journey, but in truth, this is where the real work begins. Because now you know the truth that the culture of toxic positivity tries to hide. You'll never completely eliminate negative thoughts, and you shouldn't. These thoughts, they are part of the complete human experience. They carry vital information about our wounds, our limits, our unmet needs. Freedom doesn't come from having a perfectly positive mind. That's an illusion sold by gurus who have never studied in-depth psychology. True freedom comes from integration. The ability to hold both light and shadow, both hope and fear, both strength and vulnerability, without collapsing into either extreme. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your negative thoughts are invitations to make the darkness conscious, to descend into the depths of who you are and reclaim parts of yourself that have been exiled, rejected, forgotten. So stop fighting. Start listening. Start observing. Start a conversation. And discover that on the other side of this war you are waging against yourself, there is something you've always wanted, peace with one's own mind. The journey is long. But every thought you stop fighting and begin to understand is a step toward the wholeness that Jung called individuation. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be whole. And the conscious integration of your negative thoughts is the way. Now tell me in the comments, what negative thought has been dominating your thoughts lately, and what did you learn about it today? Thank you very much for your attention and for watching until the end. Until the next video.